Thanks for joining us on the first episode of the More Than Average podcast. I'm Erik, and this is Josh. We're the co-founders of MTA Consulting, where we work with small business owners to stop owning a job, start owning a business, and love living their lives. So prior to working together in this, we owned our own landscaping companies and as well as other businesses, and we went through all the ups and downs that come with small business ownership. Now, at least I don't pretend to be at the destination or anywhere close to it, but we do think that we've got some pretty hard lessons that we've learned and some pretty funny stories, some interesting tips, strategies, and ideas that we've implemented to get us where we are now. And we hope that anyone listening can learn from the scars of our past that got us here and hopefully avoid some of the crap that we go through. So we're still figuring this out together.
Very much so.
Not sure where this is going to go, not sure all the things that we're going to be talking about here, but what we are sure of is that nothing is off limits. I'm talking about our darkest moments in business, the days where we're like, how are we even going to make it through the day or tomorrow? How are we going to pay bills? How are we going to keep the lights on? To some of the big successes that we've had and everything in between. It's all on the table. Now, we're definitely business focused, but conversations about relationships, life, and just shooting the shit will inevitably come up, and we'll have that. So with that, let's dive in, and I get a little bit more information about us and where we came from. If I can get the computer to work here. So, like I said at the beginning, we're not the Alex Hermosis or the Andy Frisellas. We don't have this all figured out. And if that's what you're looking for from us, then turn this crap off. That's just not where we're at. Hopefully, we'll be there. Definitely, we'll be there, but we're not there yet.
We're all on a journey.
Yep. And like probably a lot of people listening to this, we're going through this wall too. And our stories don't come from having a multi-million-dollar exit from a business or having everything figured out. It comes from the gritty truth of what day-to-day small business ownership and our experiences are to this point. But I do think that we have a pretty good sense of direction and some really big dreams. And most of all, the reason that we're doing this is truly to help small business owners.
Absolutely.
That's a big thing for both of us. We know what it's like to be in those super stressful situations where it feels like there's no way out of the bad situation.
It's like a one bad Groundhog Day after another.
Yeah. Working nonstop. It just feels like it's not moving the needle. So I think that what we've talked about a lot is trying to come on here each episode and chat about either a situation, a story, a challenge that we've worked through, and hopefully get some laughs out of it. Hopefully not some tears, although some of the stuff. Oof.
Both in there.
Yeah. And just help the guys getting going with some of the takeaways that we have from all of that. But before we get into any of that, I think it's important that we cover a little bit about ourselves, our backgrounds, and where we came from. So I've been talking here for quite a while. So Josh, you want to take it away and kind of give a little bit of a rundown of your past, how we got to where we are, what did you do leading up to this point and all that.
But it depends on how far back you want to go. Basically started on doing construction when I was little. I started mowing lawns, basically going through the path of a young, ambitious teenager, wanted to make money and go spend time with your friends and all the other things that teenagers want to do. A lot of time was spent in trying to learn new things, whether it was difficult to learn or not. It was more of a desire to fully grasp the concept and actually take it, learn it, and even if I wasn't going to do it again, at least have the ability to do it again if I so desired. Then I went into full-on business and full-on care. That probably lasted, what was that, 9 years or so, and it didn't exactly end well. And I'm sure Eric can attest to that. We've been through quite a struggle. There've been ups and downs and anything, just kind of like in life, business, or anything like that. You have failed relationships, failed businesses, failed business partnerships, and in the end, you kind of get some joy along the way, and you get sued and go through that, and kind of come out the other side, learn a whole lot, and trying to rebuild things. I don't know. We can't cross paths when we were still doing lawn care, and that was definitely that was an interesting time because there was my business partner Eric did not want to have anything to do with if you could help it, and then I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, was maybe give it a shot after he was meeting me because he met my business partner before he met me. So maybe it was a little bit of a change of thought process on that. Was
Yeah, I mean, why don't we unpack that a little bit? We'll circle back and I can share a little bit about me later, but that whole thing. So we met back shortly after COVID, and your the way we met was I had moved into the industrial park that you and your business partner had a little bit of at.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, my company was super small. Had only been in business not even a year at that point, fully, and was figuring things out for myself. And your business partner came up to me and was offering me subcontracted snow work. You had to help, and kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Just the way he approached that interaction, um, and thankfully, the saying goes, "Don't judge a book by its cover." Well, in this case, it's don't judge a business by one of the two business partners. Met you, and it's turned into a great friendship, really brotherhood at this point over the years since then, and lots of learning both ways, kind of through that experience. It started really with us just doing work together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I was helping you guys out with some snow contracts for your business. I had capacity to take on the extra work, and it was beneficial going both ways through that first winter, and then from there, it really kind of things took a turn in your business in particular. Kind of really, our businesses went opposite directions at that point. I don't know if you want to unpack that a little bit, kind of talk at all about some of what went on there, kind of that next season after we first met.
It was already having struggles, honestly. It was a business partner had met his wife, and his heart wasn't in it anymore. He was pretty much halfway out the door. He wasn't helping. He wasn't doing any work. He was showing up whenever he wanted. We had tons of stuff we had to do, and it was just when you have that much stuff going on, you can't do it all by yourself. Even though I tried, I definitely tried. Yeah, I was working 7 days a week from sun up, sundown. Go home, do more work. It was a mess, and it definitely went two different ways. Your business started going up, mine started going down, which is kind of like everything. You can have the ebbs and flows of the of life, but it was. I think it was definitely a turning point for that in particular.
Yeah, I mean, so hopefully this isn't sharing too much. We said nothing's off the table, so I'm just gonna put it out there and yell at me for it later if you want. But I think that kind of what I saw from my perspective, at that point, first meeting you guys, your shop was probably 3 or 4 times the size of mine. I think you guys had equipment galore. It was like for someone in my position of business where it was just me, and then I had a helper on and off. So really in that solopreneur phase of a landscaping company, um, seeing what you guys had built from the outside, it seemed like, you guys had 5 or 6 trucks. You uh, seemed to be having a lot of employees, a lot of work, kind of that like, holy shit, this is the next level that I'm trying to get to. And, so there was, from my perspective at that point, kind of a lot of admiration um, for what initially looked like was going really well. And then as I got to know you and your business partner, um, that tension was pretty clear, like early on. And then one of the big things that came out is you guys were just struggling to have any type of consistent help with work, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Is finding good help. It's just really tough.
It really is.
And that led to, you and I in particular for the rest of that winter working some crazy hours, 2 or 3 days straight, because you guys had so many contracts, and your business partner would work 10 hours and then go home.
Even that's if we're lucky to get that.
Sure. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about like what you were feeling through that, of like those moments of being left high and dry in those situations? Like how did you work through that? And then, through that point, obviously a big challenge was not having the right people, or any people. But what were some of the big challenges, and what were a couple takeaways from those challenges that you were working through at that point in time?
Brought to unpack that a little bit. It was definitely a difficult time getting and keeping employees. I think it had to do a lot with, there were different aspects of things that just didn't align, and I think the employees saw it.
You mean between you and your business partner?
And they would probably feel some of that kind of back end. Maybe it wasn't said verbally, but they could feel the tension that
It was like a disgust.
It was just like, this person seems to want to do this, and this person wants to do this, or vice versa, and it was not cohesive enough. And I think some of it just kind of made people not want to stick around. There were definitely times that we kind of hired whatever we could get.
Mm-hmm.
So in the long-term business, you're going to have some of that anyway, where they come in and they basically stay for a short period of time, and they walk back out the other side. Feeling wise, it kind of felt like I didn't have any place to turn. The closest thing that I had anything to turn to was you, in particular, because you were helping so much, and it kind of snowballed into more and more help. Kind of like you were saying, in 2-3 days. I think there was one time. What was it? I think it was 4 days, and I was seeing things.
Yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah,
we were on the way back from that apartment complex, or those two in particular, like down the street from each other, and they were pulling the skid loader. What was it? Was it you pulling the skid loader, or was it the business partner pulling the skid loader?
Yeah, I think that was the storm where we had both my loader and your loader over there at that point, and it was that was rough. But I think like there's so much that happened that year in particular. It eventually culminated in your business partner up and walking away from the business in the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of continuing to leave you to pick up the pieces, and just the mess that was left with that. And to be honest, like that's probably like an hour-long conversation just about that whole process as well. So
it maybe more.
Yeah. But like I think that the big thing for me through that is, like you were saying, with us working for 3-4 days at a time, even literally straight when it was snowing. We got smacked with one snowstorm, and it hit trigger sites and didn't have enough staff, so it just turned into you and me really just pushing through and trying to make it all happen. And then, back to back to back events leading up to that. So it's just, there's no time to rest. All the equipment breaking. So even when it then wasn't snowing, it's like, oh crap, now I'm going to go fix this piece of equipment before the snow in 24 hours and all of this, right? And I think that like the big thing that I took away from that was like the difference between your resilience in that and your business partner who was like, fuck it, it'll be fine. And he just gave up, basically. Like things got hard, and instead of let's find a way through it, it became like, I'm just gonna peace out. You guys figure it out, or don't, whatever. And so I think that the resilience there is a big thing. And when I first got in business for myself, you had this. Um, I've heard it referred to as like uninformed optimism about how things are going to go in your business, and you think everything is going to go so well because you don't know that every business has shit. Like,
Well, yeah, it's like any entrepreneur, they can write up on the whiteboard and be like, if I get this many customers and I send out this many flyers or I do this much ads, this is what I can make.
right,
There's the optimism that it doesn't mean that it's actually informed, because you can go off all the statistics and everything else like that, but that doesn't mean you're going to make the number that you want.
right, yeah, and like I think that because of social media, which is great and horrible for so many reasons, another whole other conversation. But when you look at like that uninformed optimism, because it's so much worse now than it was historically, because you're seeing only the highlight reels of every successful person's life, and
You only see what they want you to see.
right, and that's where like the reality is, like from my perspective, outside looking in, like you guys had everything going right. Like you had the shop, you had the equipment, you had the brand new trucks, you had the brand new skid steer, you had all the things. The big wraps, logos everywhere. You had all the things from the outside looking in. But if you look past the highlight reel, you see all the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And
sleepless nights, the endless hours.
Yeah.
Like you can have the glorified everything else, but you don't see the time away from family that you had to do hours of paperwork or anything else on the back end.
Hey, you don't see the fact that, holy crap, I just bought $10,000 worth of salt. I've got $1,000 in my bank account and I'm not getting paid for 45 days. You don't see that. Like,
a lot of times in business, you're trying to hide that a little bit too.
Right.
Because you're like, you want customers to see you being successful, because if you're putting the best foot forward, that doesn't mean that your bank account reflects
right.
that. Look, you can buy all these trucks, but like you said, if you have $1,000 in bank account, you don't feel like hot shot.
Yeah, and like that was a big thing that at the time I did not have the right perspective on. Like, I definitely, met you guys, and then for me, it was like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, it was a sprint to get to that level. Because you guys at that point, it's like, oh, we've been doing this for 7-8 years, and we're, finally getting to this point, and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna do it longer. Like, here I go, run. And that caused a lot of challenges for me later that year as well. Now, growth in a good direction, but growth that came with taking on bad debt and making emotional decisions that ended up making some pretty major challenges for me in business. Having to make hard decisions about my personal finances because of the business loans I had taken out, and the fact that, like, oh, hey, this customer just disputed a payment on a $20,000 job. Now what? Right? Like, all of these things that come with the growth of a business that I knew from my background, but didn't expect to be the way it was in my business. And so I think that like that resilience is like a underlying theme. And the fact that to be a small business owner, it takes more than just being willing to do the work. or go online and fill out a form to get your LLC. It's being willing to be the one to eat the shit sandwich no matter what's going on.
Basically, like, you can have stuff, or people, or your family's mad at you because you missed something else again, or they see that you're just working and you're never there, and you're missing out on those times that you actually want to be there. But it's either provide for everything, or time to go get a job, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's like the way entrepreneurship is over advertised and glorified. Like, there's a lot of people that just don't have what it takes to be in small business, and because they're not willing to make the sacrifices that it takes along the way. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to lose your family or you have to get rid of everything in your life except for your business. But there's going to be times when you have to make the sacrifices, you have to make the difficult decisions to get there. And it's up to you to decide, am I willing to give this up to get to this goal? Or is the situation I'm in right now so bad that I can't look 6 months down the road. I can't look 12 months down the road. I can't look 24 months down the road to this goal at the end of the tunnel.
You got to look to the end of the month to make sure you get the bills all paid.
Yeah.
Or, well, you may not have a truck anymore, or something else. It just kind of depends, because a lot of times when someone goes into business, they're like, oh, the business owner is making all this money, but they don't have any idea how stressful, how much hours, any of that kind of other things. And it just kind of goes into the whole thing of, I could make all this money. And then they go try it, and they don't realize that there's a bunch of stuff that they didn't know that had to be done.
Yeah.
It's
like you don't know what you don't know. And I think that for a lot of people starting businesses, that's a big factor. And we've been going here for almost a half hour, so I'm just gonna do a real short, like, kind of on my background, because I think it relates to that point that you were saying right there.
Mhm.
Like, so prior to opening my business, I was working for a lighting company. Started there straight out of high school as a customer service rep. Um, Grew with that business all the way up to being the director of operations and accounting for the company. Basically, I had no one above me except for the owners. That business grew in a matter of years to basically 10x its size. Started at about 4 million. At its peak, it was 40 within a couple of years. Most of those were customers that I was working with, all big national account customers. So, think the big convenience stores and things like that, like Amazon, kind of stuff. And that's great, but it's also risky because your business is in the hands of these elephants.
And they can hold payment or have issues depending on what happens between you ordering all parts to get everything done and getting the actual project delivered.
Exactly. Everything was spec built, so it's not like we were providing light fixtures that you would go and buy to put in your house. We were providing the lights for the actual locations themselves. So new builds, remodels, all of that, warehouses, etc. And everything was spec built to the specific application that it was going into. So super unique, great system, great product, and it just got to a point where the owners passed the business on to their sons, and they started taking the business in a direction that I just wasn't comfortable with, didn't want to be a part of, and that's okay. So parted ways and started my landscaping company. But what I didn't realize when I started my landscaping company is that even though my business was tiny, I was doing a few $1,000s a month in the beginning. That first year of business, so I started in July. That first year, I did like 60K in revenue from July to December, and
which is a big feat, honestly.
I mean, it didn't feel like it at the time.
Well, yeah, I completely understand that, but also at the same time, when someone doesn't know the industry and goes and just dives in to make $6,000 from July to December is really actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. So like most of that wasn't mowing and recurring revenue based services, which is what when I started I wanted to do. But ignorance is bliss. So I didn't realize that to pick up mowing customers in July is virtually impossible. Um, so a lot of that ended up being project based work. And so yeah, I did make it to around 60K in revenue. But not a whole lot of profit. And I was keeping things lean, running out of storage unit and all of that, which is how I was able to make it work. But what I wasn't doing is running my business off of systems. Like I felt like I was too small to put systems into my business because it's not that I didn't know how business systems worked. Like I built systems and implemented systems all the way up that scale. Um,
Through the
but
life.
yeah, right. But just not in my business. And I felt like I was too small to have any of that apply. So random customer would come up and say, "Hey, can you build me a patio?" Sure. And then became
like dollar signs. Like, okay,
yeah, exactly. It's like that sounds like I can make a lot of money. Let me look up how to do this. And YouTube and a prayer and made it there. Like I think overall I delivered some pretty high quality stuff doing that. I took pride in my work and I wanted to do everything to the best of my ability. Kind of like you were talking about with getting into construction. You were trying to learn all of these things, but do it to the best of your ability and capture the skills. It was the same thing for me with all of that, but it was very much not priced off of logic and reason. It was priced off of like, okay, I've got $4,000 due. All right, this is going to cost me $2,000 in materials. I think it's going to take 2 weeks. So like, okay, well, if I can make, 4,500, I come out a little bit ahead, and then let me, add a little cushion on the materials. Like, okay, like, all right, well, $8,000 sounds good. Oh crap, they said no to $8,000. All right, all right. How about seven? Whatever you got to do, right
against yourself.
Exactly, like whatever you got to do to get the sale at that point. That's not the right way to do it. But I didn't know that at that point in time. And it took me a while to have the confidence in myself to not just keep saying yes to everything anybody would ask for. And I think that was an interesting lesson because it comes kind of back to what you were saying that like the systems are what makes your business. Like if you don't take the time, regardless of how big or how small your company is, to create the systems now, you're not going to get through the problems to avoid the employees quitting because the culture isn't right, to avoid us having to work 3 to 4 days straight because we weren't doing the right things off of systems. We were just worried about making enough to scrape by. Um, you run into situations where you're not making the truck payments, you're not making the mortgage payments, you're doing all these things the wrong way. And it's not because you're not trying, it's because you're not empowering yourself and your business with the systems it needs to get there.
And also, if you have those systems in place, it makes it easy for it's duplicatable. Like you can have someone come in and teach them how to do it, and they have a system, they know how to do it. They can come in and teach someone else to do it, and you're not stuck teaching the same person over and over and over again.
Yeah,
because there's duplicatable things that can just you can hand it off, and they can teach the next person.
Yeah. So I think that like on that systems point, that's probably a pretty good spot to wrap up for this kind of beginning introduction to us and some of the kind of conversations that we're going to have of just experiences we've been through and what things looked like for us. I am super excited to dive into some of these stories that we like briefly touched on in more detail and get into some specifics of like the crazy things that have happened, like wrecking trucks and
We never did any
trees falling on top of people.
No.
All the things that come with that. You mentioned a lawsuit. I think we're at a point where we can talk about that now. So you can do a deep dive on failed business partnerships too, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and that's kind of from my perspective where we can start to give back, um, you know, with what we're doing now, where like we're really trying to help with that system side of things for small businesses. Primarily starting out with the accounting and bookkeeping, getting your numbers in line, learning how to price, having effective pricing models, and not just lawn care and landscaping businesses, but home service businesses in general. Because that's all of these principles apply pretty much universally across the board through home service businesses.
There's going to be little bits and pieces that change, but functionally, it's like you said, it's service-based businesses. They're all going to have relatively similar kind of aspects of it.
Yeah, and that's how I took my business from being 310K in debt to being profitable ish in less than a year, was through taking those systems and applying them in ways that actually moved the needle and allowed us to move forward. And so those are the kinds of things that we want to work with companies to set up in their businesses. So if you like the conversation that we've been having so far, give us a like, give us a follow, and stay tuned for the next one.